Hello, my friends. It is day 159, and we're reading Proverbs chapter 16 through Proverbs chapter 18. But before we get into our recap for today, I want to thank you for taking an opportunity to check out this video, and hopefully you're finding the yearly Bible reading program to be very encouraging and inspirational as you read the Bible every single day. If you have not yet accepted the invitation, please take a moment to check out the description box below, and there you will find a link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join a number of people reading the Bible every single day and sharing the things they're learning from the Word of God. So we'd love for you to be a part of the group, and I do believe that you'll be blessed by the interaction as much as we will be blessed by your participation. So here we are today, continuing our reading in the Hello, my friends. It is day 159, and we are reading the book of Proverbs, chapter 16 through chapter 18. But before we get into our recap for today, I want to thank you for taking a moment to check out this video. Hopefully, you're enjoying the yearly Bible reading program, and you're finding it useful and encouraging as you read the Bible every single day. If you have not yet accepted the invitation to be a part of this group, I would like to invite you to check out the description box below. And there you will find the link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join a number of people reading the Bible every single day and leaving feedback on the things they're learning. We'd be happy to have you a part of the group, and I believe that you will grow and you will enjoy your participation as much as we will enjoy your involvement in the group. And I want to also say, don't think that it's too late. It's not too late to join. You have a number of weeks ahead of you to join and read and actually complete the study before the end of the year. And even if you don't, it'll be good to just have a goal in mind that will allow you to read the Bible just one time through. And so whether it's in a year or 2 years, the goal is to read the Bible. So we hope you'll join us in this endeavor. Now, we're reading the book of Proverbs. We're continuing our reading in the book of Proverbs because we're at this period in the biblical narrative where we're learning from the experiences of Solomon. We're learning about his wisdom, and we're seeing just how wise he was as he requested of God. We're seeing that wisdom play out in the writings that were left on record. And so the book of Proverbs is a collection of a variety of proverbial sayings aiming to give us a deeper meaning and understanding about what it is we should do and how we should embrace life. Today we read chapter 16 through chapter 18, and I really do love chapter 16. It's one of my favorite. It has one of my favorite verses in the entire Bible. But before we get to that verse that I love to think on and meditate almost daily on, I love the way it starts. We can make our own plans, but the Lord gives the right answer. I just love that, and it leads to my favorite verse, one of my favorite verses in the Bible, verse 3. Commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed. I think we are probably more familiar with that verse as it is quoted or read in the English or the King James Version. And if we read it from the King James Version, this is what we might find. We might find it saying something like, commit your works to the Lord and your thoughts will be established. I always love to read this verse along with Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 through verse 6. And that verse, we know from the King James Version, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I love to read that. So my sequence of meditating on these verses kind of go this way. I read Proverbs 3, 5, 6, along with Proverbs 16 and 3. And I read these two Proverbs in conjunction with Psalm 37 and Psalm 73. So whenever I'm kind of just wrestling through the complexity of life or just the fairness of life, right? Like, why aren't things working out? Or when I'm wrestling with my own lack of clarity. Because a lot of times when we're going through life, we just want things to happen in a way that makes sense. We're trying to navigate through life, and we just want to make sure everything is going together the way we would hope it would. And sometimes life is a little bit cloudy. You're not able to really see what's happening until it's done. So in those moments where I'm really struggling to trust God, if you will, I like to read Proverbs 3, verse 5 through verse 6, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 3, and then I read Psalm 37 and Psalm 73. Those collection of scriptures help me. It reminds me of the reality. At first, we may not always know where we're going, but it's okay, because if we're following the path that God has set before us, we'll ultimately get where we need to be, and we can trust in the leadership and the guidance of God. But then Psalm 37:73 reminds me that along that path, while I may be discouraged by what I am observing and seeing, it reminds me that God is fair, God is righteous, and God will always come to the rescue of his people. Our only responsibility is to do what is right and do what is just and follow the will of the Lord. So these verses are such an encouragement to me. I mean, listen, man, I read these verses a lot. I read Proverbs 3, 5, 6 almost daily, 16:3 almost daily, because I'm always trying to remain vulnerable to the leadership of the Lord. No matter what comes, no matter what goes, that keeps me focused, keeps me uplifted, and I'm able to trust that the Lord will make my plans succeed if I follow him and trust him. We have another verse in chapter 16, verse 9. We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps. And this is such a beautiful and such a glorious reminder that, again, God's plan, his way, his will is always the right one for us. There are a number of things here that we might have marked. Verse 18 in chapter 16 is another good reminder. Pride goes before destruction, and haughtiness before a fall. So it is a reminder that we should always remain humble before the Lord. We are never, ever in a position where we can, live life arrogantly and proudly. We're just too fallible, too imperfect, too broken to live that way. So it's always a good idea to remain humble. And this passage reminds us of that. In chapter 17, there were a number of things that stood out. Well, one thing in particular, verse 10, talking about the ability and the willingness to be corrected. It says, a single rebuke does more for a person of understanding than 100 lashes on the back of a fool. Just think about that. Such a good, man. That, again, I love these proverbs because it's just such catchy ways of declaring truth. A single rebuke does more for a person of understanding than 100 lashes on the back of a fool. Think about that and how powerful that idea is. It reminds me of how we should always be willing to take constructive criticism. And a person who can do that will obviously succeed in whatever they set their hands to. In chapter 18, we saw a number of things there as well. We saw in verse 16 that, and I highlighted this because we have to find a way to navigate through this world. And I think a lot of times just being generous is the key. It says in verse 16, giving a gift can open doors. It gives access to important people. I'll never forget the moment that I was taught this lesson. And there's a way to do this. It's not just doing it with an angle, like you're doing it just so you can get something, or you can, kind of manipulate a relationship. I think when we honor people and we seek to appreciate people who are blessings to us in our life, it does something for our journey. Sometimes, it's very wise and very godly to invest into the people that God uses to be a blessing to you. And I don't mean invest in like to seek a return. I mean, you deposit. That's the word. Deposit. To recognize who are the people that God is that he's using to bless you and bless others. And you find a way to be a blessing to them. I've done that on several occasions, and it has been such a blessing to me, not just from the relationships that I've been able to share, but just from the opportunity to show gratitude. And I know that's what that passage is trying to communicate. And it is an incredible way to live. And I think it's something that we should implement. In verse 21, it talks about the power of the tongue. It says the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. Now, this is another verse that we've all been familiar with. We've read it in the King James Version, and we've probably quoted it thinking that it says something that it's not actually saying. We've heard people say death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. And we think that we can speak things into existence, but that's not what this passage is saying. What this passage is saying is what you say has a way of affecting your life. What you say will return to you in some way, form, or fashion. Meaning, if you live a life speaking things that lead to your death, then you will find death. If you speak things that lead to life, you will inherit life. It doesn't mean that we have the power to determine our lives, but rather our lives are based on the things we say. So if we live a life of gossip, then that's death. And we're going to find that our life is filled with fruit, dead fruit. If we learn to be people who encourage and speak positive things, then our life will be filled with those kinds of things. That's what he's saying here. He's saying your tongue has the ability to determine the quality of your life. So speak good things. Busy your life with spreading positivity with the words that you say. That is a powerful proverb. And I'm asking the Lord. I mean, I've tried never to say anything negative, but I'm asking the Lord to help me spread words that are positive and influence words that are positive. I'm praying that the Lord will help me guide my tongue and guide the words that I say, because whatever life we want, it can be found with the words that we say, right? Not speaking things to existence, but whatever we say, it has a way of returning back to us. All right. So we want to be careful with that. And we want to make sure we are using our words in a productive way. So brothers and sisters, man, listen, this is a great day of reading. Sundays are always fun, and it's always filled with great messages from the Word of God. And so I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I love to know what your favorite proverbs are. Leave them in the comment box or in the YouVersion app, and let's have a great conversation about it. But listen, until next time, thank you for watching. Take care, God bless, and remember, live by the word.